Hey, Seth and Tayler, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Hey, Seth and Tayler.
Thank you so much for having us.
Honored to be a part of this.
Well, we're glad that you guys are here with us because you guys have an amazing story of paying off a bunch of debt. And we know our audience cannot wait to hear how you guys were able to make that happen. But before we get into your story, can you just take a moment and introduce yourselves to everybody and let them know what you're all about?
Sure. My name is Taylor and my husband Seth. We have one baby girl. Her name is Denver, and we are vloggers. We vlog our life and our family and our kind of budgeting debt-free journey, and we love it.
Awesome. So let's talk about your debt-free journey. Can you tell our audience how much debt did you guys have and what did the debt consist of?
So we started out at the very max peak of $58,000 in debt. That involved a ridiculous, obnoxious truck that I had, Taylor's student loans from a private institution, as well as miscellaneous credit card debt. We had some other outstanding debt that we owed to family and friends also. We had our debt spread around, if I can say that.
And this was when we were in our very, very early 20s, so starting off.
Yeah, we even got married, each of us having our own debt, bringing it to a cumulative debt pile.
Now, but you see, we got a big truck, we got a student loan, you guys are young, in love, freshly married, but I'm sure that you guys weren't alone. I'm sure that this was the norm amongst your circle of friends. The life that you guys were living was not out of the norm. It's what everybody else was doing.
Absolutely.
That's exactly the case.
So what was it for you guys that kind of opened your eyes and made you say, yeah, this is what everybody else is doing, but this is not what we want to do?
So we definitely thought that we were smarter than our ability to have issues with finances. We thought that we could out-earn any decision that we had made. If I just go ahead and buy the truck, I will find a way to pay for it, was my mentality. And what happened was, what we realized a couple months into our marriage is having those payments that we had on all of the different items that we had, it really cut into our purchasing power every single month, and what we wanted to do that month we couldn't do. So the tip of the iceberg was we had 3 months in a row, 3 consecutive months, where essentially $1,000 was spent on meaningless things. Disappeared. In addition to all of our standard expenses, and in addition to paying down all of our debts. And it really wasn't until that moment that we realized, this is not working. We think that we have it all figured out in our heads, but we were just basically derailing at every corner and every intersection of our lives.
Talk about that conversation. I don't know who it was that brought it to the other one first to say, you know what, wait a minute, we need to stop this. Take a look. We have now spent $1,000 over the past 3 months on nothing. So walk our audience through that conversation that you had with the other.
Well, I think it's actually a very appropriate time to have this discussion, because one of those months that we had a bunch of erroneous expenses was Christmas. Mm-hmm. We were convinced that we had to spend a whole bunch of money on all of our family and friends to get them these extravagant, great Christmas presents. And it was the first Christmas that we spent together, and so we felt like, as a couple now, as a family, mm-hmm. we had to start, buying things for people, that were substantial. And the reality was we were buying them things that not even they needed. So it was, I think it was Taylor and I looking at our finances and then literally simultaneously looking at each other and shaking our heads saying, this is not working.
And we had both come from backgrounds of knowing about Dave Ramsey and his financial advice. We actually took a course in high school. So it's kind of always been in the back of our heads. Mm-hmm. And we did a loose budget in our heads those 3 months. Like, okay, we'll spend about this much, but we didn't make it like permanent. We didn't write it down. We didn't really focus on it and say, this is something that we're really going to stick to. Right. So at the end of those 3 months, when I think we had some bill we had to pay and we were looking at how are we going to pay this bill, And then we started tracking like 3 months back of, oh my goodness,
Where's
look
it
at
all
how much
gone?
money we've wasted.
When you have a budget that's in your head, like for Christmas, I was like, okay, we would agree we're gonna spend $200, but that means that she would spend $200 and then I would spend $200. All of a sudden, we just doubled. So yeah, there was no control, control.
Now, was it at that point where you had the 3 consecutive months back to back, and it was like, well, we need to do something different? Was it an immediate shift where you guys went from budget in head to budget on paper, or did it take a few more bumps before you guys got full on into this journey of getting your finances in order?
I think it definitely took us a couple months to figure it out. We said, okay, we know about Dave Ramsey. Let's read up a little bit more. And we wrote our budget out, and we actually took the Financial Peace University course that helped us so much.
Immensely.
And we read his book, and once we realized, okay, this is the budget that we want, we put it all down on paper, and then we would review it at the end of the month and say, this didn't work, this did work. And then we would kind of mess with it. And it took a good, I'd say 3 to 6 months before we actually felt like we knew what we were doing. We were getting some momentum.
Before we had a working budget. So there was even a learning curve to the budgeting process for us.
Yeah,
significantly.
definitely.
Gotcha. So talk about, practically speaking, what were some of the strategies that you guys put in place to knock out this debt? And how long did it take you to knock out this debt?
So from the time that we had the most debt, which was that $58,000 haunting number that I have kind of, in the memory, in the past here, it took us a grand total of 18 months, a year and a half, to get that all gone. So that's incredible momentum that we had. But it was definitely in the moment, it was a slow, steady process, and it was all about kind of, changing things on the ground floor. There was nothing, fancy that we did with, investments or anything. It was all dealt with, cash that we had from our jobs that we were assigning and relocating and changing the way that we behaved whenever we went into a grocery store or into a electronics store, furniture store, etc. We had to put the brakes on a whole bunch of our spending. That's what we were doing. We were on a spiral, spiraling out of control on our spending, which, like you mentioned earlier in the beginning, is something that we're surrounded by and that everyone's doing. And so when I would go out with my friends and we would go out and just get a couple drinks, or just go out to lunch real quick and this and that, or go karting or anything, like all those things were adding up. And Taylor was noticing the same thing when she would go out with her friends. It was just like you're trying to keep up with that.
And I think that we really had to focus on, number one, creating a budget and making sacrifices and knowing, okay, we're not going to go out and eat out for dinner 3 times a week. We're not going to go on vacation this year. We're going to really make those sacrifices to put everything we possibly could to attack our debt. And in doing that, we used the envelope system where you're using cash. And we said, okay, this is the cash we have for the month. This is what we're going to use. And the biggest thing that kind of helped us get over that hump is putting our credit cards and even at one point our debit cards away. We had to completely take them out of our wallets because
we were using them as a crutch, essentially.
Yeah, and we had to just eliminate that temptation, and that helped significantly in keeping us on our budget.
Seth, something that you said was so profound, and I think it needs to be said again for others to hear. It took you guys 18 months to pay off $58,000. But like you said, in the moment, it was slow and steady. And I think a lot of people, when they're getting out of debt, they give up because it feels like they're just moving really, really slow, like they're not making any traction whatsoever. But before you know it, look at you guys. 18 months later, you were completely debt-free from $58,000. So talk about that a little bit. How did you all stay the course? Was there something that you guys said to each other? Was there any motivation, or what was the mindset that you guys had to put yourself in to say, nope, let's continue putting one foot in front of the other?
Yeah, it was definitely something that we had to continue to encourage each other and find people that we could seek encouragement from who have done it. like we were all saying, because we're young and all of our friends, I don't think we have any friends like in our like close area that are doing this and who live the lifestyle that we do with their money. And so it can feel really isolating. And when you're just chugging along and you're like, this isn't even working, we're not enjoying it. We can't have fun. Like, I think that we had to change our mindset and say, this is the end goal and this is what we want to focus on. And instead of focusing on the here and now and, we can't go out to dinner because it's not in the budget, focus on, we're not going out to dinner right now because in the future, we want to pay this debt off and we're making sacrifices now to benefit from it. And for us, we didn't have any kids when we started this journey, and we knew that we wanted to be in a little bit more of a sound financial state before we had any kids. And so we're like, okay, we're going to work really hard,
Well, another thing that really helped us stay motivated in that slow and steady process of paying off debt is we followed the idea of the debt snowball that Dave Ramsey describes, where he has you list out your debts from smallest to largest, regardless of interest rate or payment period or whatever things they might have tacked onto it. But that's because the first one gets paid off usually really quickly. Usually your smallest debt's only a couple $100, and that gives you a little bit of relief, and you realize like, wow, this is working, I'm on course. Even though those large ones are toward the end, you only have one debt left to pay, and so
you're just attacking it so
exactly. And I'm just getting chills thinking about it now, because it was so empowering, and that really helped us stay the course. Because by the time we had like 2 or 3 of the smaller ones paid off, we were like, this is gonna work. We could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it only added to our aggression of wanting to eliminate those bigger ones, and it would motivate me to take any extra job, here and there on the weekends, on the side, in order to just throw at that debt. Because I'm like, man, let's say we've been paying $1,200 a month to this debt. If I can work a couple extra weekends helping my friend pour some concrete or something, then I can do another $200 at that. It's gonna scoot us up. And so it was a passionate decision and a diligent, carrying out of that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it when you guys talk about the side jobs. We call it hustles. Okay. It's definitely, hustle season. So talk about that a little bit. How did you find the side jobs? Was it something that you sought after, or did you just let family members and friends know, like, hey, if you guys are looking for any extra odds and ends to be done, I'm the guy for it?
Yeah, we were both doing it. Me on my side, I'm a farmer, so and in a smallish kind of town, and so everyone that I work with and I'm interacting with is a hands-on kind of person. We are all do-it-yourself kind of people, and there's a good amount of people in the area who are for example, building fences. I think I built like 3 fences since we've been married. Just because it's easy for me. I understand the process, and a lot of the people who I'm doing it for don't even know how to swing a hammer. So. And they are friends of mine in most cases, so they're usually referrals and stuff like that. But exactly, whenever I could find an opportunity to do that hustle, I was all over it, and people started to know that I was eager to do things like that.
Yeah, and I would tell my boss, hey, if you need extra hours, like, I'm your girl, let me know. And I worked for an interior designer at the time, and we had kind of a group of designers, and I would say, hey, like, if you guys need, renderings or office work, I'll work whenever I can, fit it in, work from home at night, things like that. And like, word gets around, like, oh, hey, Taylor's doing this, let's go ask her before we try to search for somebody to do this for us.
Yeah.
Does your credit score have you down and looking for solutions? You may just find the answers you're looking for with Credit Sesame. Credit Sesame is your solution for a free no-hassle credit score, credit analysis, and tips for managing your money. They are here to help you take control of and have the tools you need to bring about a bright financial future. Get empowered today. There's no credit card required. Receive identity theft protection up to $50,000. And discover a marketplace for credit and loan officers that will help you get to your next level. Visit hisandhermoney.com/Credit Sesame for more details.
So now you guys mentioned the fact that you were on an island when it came to this. Your friends, nobody around is living this lifestyle. What was the feedback that you were getting from them as you were first launching out and you were doing the cutbacks? You couldn't go out like you used to. You couldn't do the vacations like you used to. What was the type of feedback that you were getting from everybody about the choices that you guys were beginning to make?
It's interesting because we at first it was definitely like puzzlement and negativity. Like we had to turn some people down. We had trips that we had planned with friends, and then when we decided that we were going to change our lifestyle, we had to cancel those plans. That was part of our sacrifice. But the curious thing is now we do usually take a few small vacations every year, but we budget for them, and we don't go on that vacation until we have the money to pay for it set aside, and without defunding any of our other interests that we have, like our savings and things like that. So now, when we do go on vacation with our friends, it's completely different because we're using cash. And when we go home at the end of that vacation, our vacation doesn't follow us home with us. So it's really empowering, and we notice that sense of slumber that our friends might have coming home from a weekend long vacation somewhere, because they were just swiping their way through the entire weekend, and they know that when they get home and they open that envelope for that credit card, they are just going to be shocked.
But even though that is the truth, we still get comments about oh, well, that doesn't really work. That's not realistic. That's not going to help you long term. Have you thought about, this? Like, having a credit is really good for you. And it's kind of like, it's such a twisted mindset. And once you really, really think about it and you do your research and you learn and you kind of study like finances, living a debt-free lifestyle makes perfect sense. It's so much just better and easier on like the way that we live our life. And so even though that is true, it's surprising to me to see how people will still tell you that it's not a smart decision.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, that's the culture that we live in, to where what we're doing is weird, like Dave Ramsey says, because what everybody else is doing is the norm. So along this journey, you guys shifted it into high gear. You're making all these cuts. You're making all these sacrifices. You're working extra jobs. You're doing everything you can to get to the finish line. Were there some obstacles that popped up along the way? And if so, how are you guys able to overcome those obstacles and continue to move forward?
Yeah, I think that there were obstacles. There were times where we did fall off the bandwagon a little bit and say, we were just feeling a little bit burnt out, and we, we're going to go on this vacation, and then we would regret it and it would set us back. And we had to kind of overcome the feeling of like not making progress. Even though we were making progress, we had to like fight those feelings of feeling burnt out.
And even small expenses. So I said that when we first started the budgeting process, we were not very good at it. So we didn't know how to properly budget our food money, our grocery money for the month. And what we were doing early on was, okay, well, we would start off with it really choked back, and then we wouldn't be able to get to the month. So then we would use our debit card or a credit card to try to finish us off. And it was really tricky to break that habit. That was a terrible habit for us to have. But what happened was, the best feedback that we had, I feel like, was every month reviewing what happened. Okay, so what happened? And we would look at all of our accounts and track them all, and we would have a lump sum of an amount that was in violation of our budget. Most of that would have been on food and something, and we would hate that. So then we would, okay, if we want to make an adjustment to our budget, we can agree on that, and we can do that, and we can implement it in the next month going forward, and hopefully maybe not have that problem. But overall, it was seeing that and seeing that we were getting off track, and that would steer us back on.
And I think another obstacle is miscellaneous expenses that we didn't plan for. Like, a birthday or a wedding, and we'd be like, oh my gosh, like this is not in the budget. And it took us a full year to kind of figure that out a little bit and devote a little portion of our budget for those miscellaneous expenses. But those are kind of hard to like work through in the beginning.
Birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all those kinds of things. Christmas is obviously a big one, but that's not too surprising. It's in December every single year.
Yeah.
So over the course of this journey that you guys went on, 58,000 smackers destroyed. What type of impact did all these ups and downs, these twists and turns have on your marriage overall?
Overall, it has been the best thing we could have done for our marriage. It was such a stressor in the beginning, and it was, wait, what did you spend money on today? Like, you weren't supposed to spend money on that. And it was creating arguments that we had, like, there's just no need for. And so doing this has taken out every single stress of any financial, and we are always on the same page, and it's helped us, I think, communicate better and learn how to compromise, because my perfect budget is not necessarily his perfect budget, but we have to come together and really agree and notice that we have to work together in order for it to be successful. If we are not 100% a team, then it's not going to work. And so it has been such an amazing blessing for our marriage.
It was certainly a lot of motivation for us to see that what we could accomplish when we're working together. That's what we noticed in it. And that's, I definitely think that this whole process has brought us closer together rather than introduced any, strongholds in our marriage.
For a lot of people, they're at where you were. You guys had to learn about finances, and you went to FPU. You had to learn how to budget. You had to do all these things, from scratch, from ground zero. Talk about how you all were able to develop, because Taylor, you just mentioned, both of you mentioned the importance of teamwork. How did you go about developing that? Because I'm sure it wasn't I took FPU and I was ready. I'm sure that there were some lessons, some obstacles, some maybe even some deep conversations that had to be dealt with. So if somebody's listening right now, a spouse who's not all the way on the same page with their spouse, and they're trying to, what advice would you give them?
I would say it doesn't have to be set in stone forever. If you want to do it a certain way and your spouse wants to do it a different way, if you can't come to a compromise, then just try it out their way first. And sometimes all it takes is you being the bigger person and saying, okay, let's try it your way, to give them a little bit of that, they are working with me. They are hearing what my needs are and what my thoughts are, and try it out for a month and review it. Revisions. We review our budget every single month. It's an ever evolving process, and it doesn't have to be permanent. So if you feel like, okay, we did it their way, you might learn something, they might learn something, and then you revise it and you say, okay, let's try it my way, and kind of see how it works and see what you can develop as a team together, something that you're both really confident and comfortable in.
I would say that if there are a few things that you in the budgeting process with your spouse are not seeing eye to eye on, I would encourage you to just kind of compromise on a few items. For example, Taylor and I had a 30-minute discussion on how much we should be spending on hair and makeup, because as far as I'm concerned, I can get a haircut for $9 a month. So if we did $20 a month on hair and makeup, we should be good. But that obviously wasn't realistic. So I didn't want to spend more than $20 on hair and makeup for the month, but Taylor did. And what I found was, by me saying, okay, you know what, we'll set aside $40 or $60 for the month, what I was giving up was a small fraction, because if we were not living on a budget, we would be losing so much more than $40 or $60. So it might mean that we're not saving quite as much, but it's putting us in check, and it's working. And that's the important thing.
So important. So talk us through that moment when you guys paid off that last debt payment.
Oh
my gosh, I wish I could relive it.
Absolutely.
It was so exciting.
It was exhilarating. It was liberating, like literally the chains are gone type of moment. And we just felt like we were on top of the world. We felt like we were, empowered. And it has been everything that we thought that it would be. Not having to worry about, hey, I got to take my check home at the end of the month. Oh, but I got to take $500 right off the top because I have X, Y, and Z payments. Like, there's none of that.
I felt like we felt so like smug, like, oh yeah, we're walking down the street and we go out to a restaurant and we're like, here's our cash because, you know, we're debt free, and people are looking at us, okay, and we're so excited. We wanted just to tell everybody, and
your dollars go so much farther when you don't have any of those payments. It's like getting a raise. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So over the course of your journey from start to finish, what do you think was the biggest life lesson that you guys took away from it all?
Oh gosh, I feel like there's so many. I think patience is a huge one. Just knowing that you remain patient and you remain consistent and it will happen. I think learning want versus need is also a big thing, and how you can have an amazing, phenomenal life without spending money on things. Like, we had our 3-year anniversary and we're being really diligent right now about saving our money, and we're like, you know what, we're not going to go and spend a lot of money on our anniversary. And we went on a hike as a family, and we went exploring this town, and we spent zero money and we had the best time. And so I think just learning that sometimes what society says to do is not what you have to do, and you can find happiness without money.
I could also add to that, like, one lesson that I have taken away from this whole process is you cannot put a price on financial security. It is literally something that can haunt you in your sleep. And if you do not have it, you know, if you do not have a plan, if you don't have anything figured out, if you're just walking around aimlessly trying to, you know, shuffleboard and avoid all these envelopes that are coming at you in the mail. But having that security, I mean, like Taylor and I have said, since we started this process, we haven't had a fight or an argument about money, and we haven't ever wondered or worried, where are we going to be in 20 years? We know exactly the plan that we're on, and it's up to us. If we don't like the plan, we can change it. But right now, you know, there's no conversation or no issue to be had with anything regarding finances, and that allows us to spend so much more time enjoying each other's company and enjoying our marriage.
Yeah.
Love that. And you guys have a daughter, correct? Talk about that. How old is she?
9 months.
It's amazing.
Awesome.
Amazing. Children are truly a blessing. Talk about that for a moment. You guys were able to, give birth, and she was able to come here.
At least one of you.
Yeah, exactly. At least one of you, right? But you guys were right. You guys were able to have this beautiful baby girl, and she has 2 parents that are debt free. I mean, that has to feel amazing. Talk about that.
Yeah, it really does.
Talk about 1-bedroom situation.
That's true. So we live in a 1-bedroom right now, and when we got pregnant, everybody was like, "Oh, so when are you moving? What's your plan?" And we're like, you know what? This is the plan. The plan is to live here, because even though we're debt free, we still have a lot of goals and things that we want to accomplish, and we're not going to spend a bunch of money and, you know, blow our budget just because we paid off our debt. We don't want to get back to where we were. So we brought her home in a different mindset, and it has been so great and so easy. And I feel so excited to be able to raise her from this mindset and raise her and show her a life without debt, so she knows the difference and she knows how good it is. And it's been so nice to know, okay, we changed our budget when we were pregnant and we added a category in for the baby, and she's here, and now we're finding out how much diapers really do cost, and we edit our budget a little bit, and it just takes any of the question mark away from it, and it's been wonderful.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, that was a goal that you guys set out for. And when we were talking earlier, you said, you know, part of the motivation was you knew that one day you wanted to have children and you wanted to be in a better place financially before you did. And I think a lot of people have that thought in their mind, but you guys put in the work and made the sacrifices in order to actually position yourself there in that spot. So kudos to you guys for doing the work and putting yourself in position to win. Now, we love to encourage our audience to learn about money. That was one of the biggest propelling points for Ty and I to become debt free. Was we learned, we read books, we watched shows, we listen to podcasts centered around personal finance and learning how money really works. So what are some book recommendations that you all would tell our audience to check out if they're trying to learn and get their finances in order?
I think we owe everything to Dave Ramsey. So The Total Money Makeover is a great book that we read, and Financial Peace University, not necessarily a book, but if you could take a class for that, that has been amazing, and it's been awesome to be able to answer questions with other people and just have that support system around you. And then Smart Money, Smart Kids, if you do have children, has been a great one as well.
Another one that I want to mention, and it's not necessarily a financial book, but it is a book that we read as we were going through our premarital counseling, and it is Love and Respect. It opened my eyes up to the minds and inner workings of a woman, because I feel like I can even say now that I still do not understand Taylor in every situation, in every moment, but that book has taught me how to communicate to her and how she communicates to me and how we resolve conflicts and everything. And you probably know that they say that the number one fight of all married couples is over money. It's obviously a huge problem in our society today, and I think that book really helped us when we were sitting down and going through our budgeting process. We had that book kind of controlling our behavior and our interaction in that moment to make sure that we were working together, that we were on the same team.
Love that. Love that. So talk to that person right now who heard your story and they're inspired and encouraged and they want to now get on this journey to become debt free. Speak to that person right now.
I would say don't let that fire burn out. If you have a little spark, a little flame, just fuel it. And like you were saying, educate yourself, read and do research and find other people who have done it and lean on them, ask them questions and put the work in. And I know it seems really, really daunting and really overwhelming. And in the beginning, you're like, oh my gosh, it's going to take forever for us to get to that point. And sometimes it really does feel like that. And you can feel like it's years and years away, but time flies. And you'll get there sooner than you think. And
I cannot underestimate, and you cannot put a price on that financial security and that freedom. It is everything that you think that it is.
And more.
Incredible, guys. So let everybody know about your awesome YouTube channel and how they can connect with you guys.
Yeah, so our channel is called Cooley and Co, and we are family vloggers, and we are super honest about our debt-free journey and our financial journey and our budgeting, and we have quite a few videos on our channel about that. So if you want to head over and subscribe to our channel so you're notified of our videos, we would love to have you and let us know that you come from here, and that will be so exciting.
Yeah, and you will see, if you follow our story closely, you'll see at the end of every month our fridge is looking pretty slim. But that's
we do show that.
But it's all part of the plan, and we almost use that as an encouragement to anyone out there that might be going through those same processes of making those sacrifices. But it also helps hold us accountable, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Definitely check the show notes, and we will have the links to their channel in the show notes.
Seth and Taylor, this has been incredible. Your journey to $58,000 of debt freedom is truly inspirational, and we really, truly appreciate you guys taking time to share the story with our audience today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you
so
for having
much.
us.